to know that you've mastered a basketball skill? I'm Tony. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies.
Ain't nothing to me, I'm profound. My team strong, we strong arm. And one get dunked on. My highlights get top views. Top tier, I'm breaking news. You hear my name, they feel my game. I'm the future Hall of Fame.
So this is more of a beginner topic, obviously, because those of us who are more intermediate or beyond, we've gone through the process, right? We've developed our own process to where we know we're in the beginning of our process, in the midst of it, and where the end of it is. But beginners just don't have that experience yet. And the two major problems that I see with beginners when it comes to trying to master a certain skill set or a certain move in basketball is the less common mistake is that you have mastered that move or that skill set, but yet you're still practicing it way more often, putting way more time and repetitions into it than you need to. And yes, once you do master a certain skill set or a certain move, you still need to practice that move or that skill, but if you're putting way too much time or repetitions into a move that you've already mastered, you're wasting time that could be used towards mastering another skill set. The more common mistake is settling too soon, meaning if you're trying to master a move and in reality you only get about 80% of the way there, a lot of players will just settle for that 80% and say that's good enough. And for most players, casual players, that would be fine, right? Because you're just looking to build your game, you're not looking to be perfect. But for the few of us who are out here outdoors recreationally really trying to build the best possible game that we can, settling for 80% is just not good enough. You can get significantly better, but you're not willing to put in that extra effort to get that extra 20% to really master a skill. So you settle too soon, you move on too soon, and because of that, your game's not as well-rounded or as broad or as deep as it could be. And when you come across players like me, players like the rest of us who take, outdoor recreation basketball so seriously, we do delve into that last 20%. We do try to get as much out of it as we possibly can. And when your 80% goes against my 105%, what do you think is going to happen when you gave up too soon and I went the extra mile? So today we're going to talk about how to know that you've mastered a skill, the process of going through of actually mastering it, and then what you should do once you've actually mastered that skill or that move. Let's start with the general process of building and mastering a skill or a move. The great thing about the beginning of this process is that everybody starts in the same place with no experience. Now, how fast or efficiently you learn a certain move or a skill is going to depend from player to player. One of the most determining factors of that is, do you have talent for that specific move or skill set? If you do, that means it's going to come easier to you than the average player. But we all start from the same place. No skill, no experience. But for most of us who don't have a certain skill, a certain talent with a certain ability or move that we're trying to master, we're all going to start with having that uncomfortable feeling. The feeling of like, I don't know what I'm doing because I've never done it before. You have no reference point in terms of muscle memory or in your mind of having done it before. So you're just naturally going to be uncomfortable with it. Essentially what you're trying to accomplish is you're trying to get your brain and your body on the same page so that your brain and your body do exactly what you're trying to teach them and master them to do. The only real way to get rid of this uncomfortable, weird, new feeling is through repetition. Practicing that move, that skill set over and over again. And this is where the time builds up that it's going to take in order for you to master and even just start to learn this skill, because repetition is, you have your mind over here, you have your body over here, you're trying to bring them together. It takes repetition after repetition to start to force them together. So every repetition, your mind and your body get a little bit closer and a little bit closer, but it's going to take repetition after repetition, and that's going to build up over time. That's why it takes so long to learn and master a new skill or a new move. as your mind and your body get closer and closer together to being synced up, right, that's the more comfortable you're going to feel trying to learn and execute that move. But at some point, you're finally going to get to the point, that magical feeling, it feels magical when it happens, when you finally do get that sync, right? Where your body and your mind go, okay, this is what I've been chasing. This is how you actually execute this move or this skill. This is how it's supposed to be. This is how it's supposed to feel when I do it properly. Once you have that sync, once it clicks in and you feel it, now you're about halfway there to having mastered that skill or that move. Because the second half now consists of refining that skill, perfecting it, figuring out all the little details that go into that move or that skill, where if you do this way, it makes it more efficient. Or if you do something this way, well, you're kind of making a mistake even though you're still executing the move properly, because maybe there's an extra move or step in there that you don't really need, that if you took that extra little bit out, it would make the move or the skill a little bit more efficient, a little bit more effective. So you're really at the point where you're really trying to refine your move, that skill. So you're taking out all the little things that you don't need, and you're perfecting everything else in the move so that you can execute it exactly the way you want to and exactly the way you need to. At the same time, while you're refining and perfecting, you also want to be thinking about, okay, how can I add in variables to this move or this skill? Because when you take that move out to the court in competition against defenders, well, they're not going to allow you to make that move or to use that skill the way you want to, the standard way that you've been practicing for all these, days, weeks, months, all these hours, all this time you've put in, the standard way you've been practicing. Defenders are not going to let you do that. They're going to force you to do something different. At least they're going to try, in which you're going to have to make adjustments on the fly in competition. So in practice, you're going to have to practice making modifications, adjusting the moves in practice, so that when you get to the game, those defenders forcing you to do something that they think would be uncomfortable to you are not uncomfortable to you. So not only are you perfecting and refining, you're also trying to think of every possible conceivable situation and circumstance in which, okay, what if a defender does this? I gotta make this adjustment, I gotta make this modification, I gotta go here, I gotta change my speed, I gotta do whatever I can to still execute the move properly, while adding in a variable or modification that's going to allow me to not be thrown off by whatever a defender's trying to make me do. So in this second half of refining, perfecting, and then adjusting and modifying, you want to get to the point where doing that just feels second nature, right? So not only are you refining and perfecting, but in the midst of that, while you're also modifying and adjusting, those modifications, those adjustments are sort of second nature, right? Because you don't have to think about the move that you're trying to execute anymore, right? You've already perfected that in your mind. Now all you're trying to do is make those adjustments and those modifications second nature to you, so that when you find yourself in competition, you just automatically make them. So that's the general process you're going to go through when you're trying to master a certain move or skill set. So now let's talk about how you know you've actually mastered it. The ultimate and best way to determine if you've mastered a new skill or a new move is by trial under fire, meaning getting out to the court under competition, in game, and using and trying that new skill or move. There's 3 elements to knowing whether or not you've mastered that skill. The first being awareness, right? Are you able to identify the situations wherein using that new move or that new skill would be appropriate? Not only that, but which situations would be optimal for using that skill or that move. What you're looking for is, where would it be optimal to use that skill? Looking for situations wherein, if I use this skill in this situation, it would be more effective than anything else I could do at that time. So number one is identifying those situations and those circumstances. Second of all is just execution. Can you execute that move the way you need to, the way you want to, the way you envision it in your mind when you see that situation, that circumstance, and go, okay, in your mind you see yourself doing that move in that circumstance, in that situation, doing it a certain way and it giving you whatever outcome that you're desiring. Can you actually execute that way? And can you do that multiple times in multiple situations? So you're able to identify the right situations, and it's going to be, a different circumstance every time, right? Meaning there's going to be different players in different positions. You're going to be at different positions on the court. Can you still execute that move under different variable situations and circumstances and still have it be executed the way you've envisioned it in your mind? Not only that, but it has to feel second nature. It has to come automatically. The more you have to think about it, plan it out, the more you have to force yourself to do it, the less you've mastered the move. The less you have to think about it, the less you have to plan it, the less you have to force yourself to do it, the more you have mastered the move. So you should be able to identify the situation and immediately envision what you want, what you need to happen, and then automatically you just do it without thinking, without forcing. You just automatically identify and execute immediately. The better you can do that, the faster you can do that, the more you've mastered that move or that skill. The same principles apply to the third element, which is throwing in those alterations, those modifications, those adjustments, right? The defense is not going to give you what you want. They're going to try to make it difficult on you. At least a competent defender, a competent defense is going to make it difficult on you, make you change up what you're trying to do. So can you do that? And can you do that without thinking, without trying, without planning, without forcing? Does it just become automatic? Okay, I see the defender, I know what he's doing, he knows what I'm doing, so he's trying to force me to do X, Y, and Z. So instead, I'm gonna do A, B, and C, and I'm going to do it automatically, and I'm going to do it perfectly, and I'm going to do it in a way where it's still effective, even though I had to make those alterations, those modifications that I didn't plan. But in the moment I saw that I had to make an adjustment, I automatically made that adjustment. It was still effective, it still worked, and even though it didn't happen the way I envisioned it, it still ended up with the result that I was intending. So once you have those three elements in place and they come automatically to you, it's all second nature because of all the time and practice and repetitions you put in, that's when you know you've mastered that skill or that move set. Lastly, what do you do once you have mastered a skill or a move? This is kind of the section that separates the men from the boys, at least it can, because if you're a beginner, right, and you're learning the basics of the game and you're mastering the basics of the game, well, you only have, a small skill set, move set to your game to that point. So you don't have really that much to practice. Your biggest problem is that you don't have experience with it yet. So you have to come out here, get that and build that experience, but you're building that experience with a relatively small skill set. Once you start to master whatever moves, whatever skills that you need to, what you're essentially doing is you're adding tools to your bag of tricks out here at the park. But that just means you have more tools that then practice with over time. So the more skills, the more moves that you master, the more you have to practice them, right, to keep them in the front of your mind so that you can effectively and efficiently use them in whatever game competition that you find yourself in. You don't want to forget, if you're going to put all that time and effort into mastering a skill or a move, you don't want to forget about it and not use it to help you win a game when you could have, and it could have really made a major difference. All that time, all that effort that you went into mastering that skill or that move is kind of wasted in situations like that. So the bigger your tool set is, that means the more time you have to put into practicing. That's why I say it can be a matter of separating the men from the boys, because are you going to be willing to put in that time, that effort into polishing off all of those skills that you acquire and master over time? Are you willing to keep those skills and those moves fresh in your mind? And in order to do that, it's going to take, practicing them on a regular basis in order for you not to forget about them. Most players are probably not willing to put in that kind of effort, the kind of time that that's going to require. Are you most players? How much does this actually mean to you? So I want to thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, if you found it helpful, if you think it's going to help you be able to master a skill or a move set precisely, so that you're not putting too much time into it, and also you're not settling too soon and selling yourself short on a certain skill or a move. If you think it's going to help you with that, then please subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you hit that thanks button down below. So let me know down in the comments, what do you think? How much time, effort, how do you know when you've mastered a skill? Let me know down in the comments. Every comment that you make after hitting that thanks button is going to be highlighted, which means it's going to stand out from any other comments down in the comment section. Not only that, but when you hit that thanks button, it directly supports the channel. So whoever does that, know I greatly, definitely appreciate it. As always, like, share, comment, hit that notification bell so you're notified whenever any video goes live on this channel. And until then, I'll see you guys next week.
I'm a sap, can't knock me out of my way. Anytime, any day, anywhere we can get it on. Run it back and I'll run you off. Paid the cost to be the boss. Got in the game and I got off. Wear the crown, never kneel down. It's my turn this time around. Wow.